Hello, how are we? Yeah, you didn't miss it. Look at you, not missing it. Hey, hey. Hey, hey. Yeah, it's a possibility we're gonna do um, the last episode of the nerdy series today. I don't know. We'll see how much time we have. If not, we will have like one more special episode. If not gonna have, if we're not gonna have like enough time for today. But yeah. Hi, hello, Night RN Gamer. Not as legendary as I think I am, but welcome. This is the first time you chat with us. Welcome, welcome. I'm not as legendary as I think you think I am, but yes, I am that cinnamon roll. I am that cynical one. I am not legendary. Oh, you are. Mm-hmm. Which work? This one here on Twitch or on a certain orange website? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'll say let's get into it. Sure. Okay. So right. The orange YouTube. Yes, I have heard much about the orange YouTube. Well, I hope you enjoyed that work, and I hope you enjoyed this work too, because I have brains too, not just that. Anyway, so the first subject we're going to talk about today is the last subject I was supposed to talk about last time, but I didn't have time anymore. And that there's no problem with that. We're gonna chip in. So that is bioluminescence. The bioluminescence is the ability of living organisms to produce their own light through chemical reactions. Unlike reflected light, like the moon reflecting sunlight, this light is generated inside the organism, not outside. The light is usually blue or green because those wavelengths travel best through water. Now, how does it work? Most bioluminescence comes from a chemical reaction involving luciferin, a light-producing molecule, and luciferase, an enzyme that triggers the reaction, and oxygen. Don't think about the actual Lucifer. Lucifer basically means light, so hence the name. When luciferin reacts with oxygen assisted by luciferase, energy is released as visible light. This is often called cold light because almost no heat is produced. Now, when does it appear? Bioluminescence is especially common in the ocean. An estimated 70 to 90% of deep sea organisms can produce light. Examples include deep-sea fish. The anglefish uses a glowing lure above its mouth to attract prey in the darkness. As you all know, hey them! As you all know, the bottom of the ocean is very, very dark. So, in order to be able for them to go around, certain fishes have to create their own light. As I said, as the anglefish does. And at raves. Oh my god. At raves. another deep sea creature would be the squid and the jellyfishes. Many jellyfish glow when disturbed. The famous glowing protein used in biotechnology came from the Aequera victoria, which produces green fluorescent protein, GFP. Another one from the deep blue sea will be the bioluminescent plankton. Tiny organisms called dinoflagellates can make ocean waves glow blue at night. When disturbed by movement, like swimming or boat wakes, they flash brightly. Some beaches around the world glow with this phenomenon. Now, we kind of heard about these little guys. Yes, Alpha, I did say beaches. I did. Anyway, now, besides of the creatures in the ocean, we also have creatures in the sky, little insects that do this kind of thing. One that is very commonly known will be the firefly. On land, the classic example is the firefly. Fireflies use flashing patterns to attract mates and communicate with each other. Different species have unique flash rhythms. So yeah, you wanna flirt like a firefly? Grab a lantern and start flicking it. You're gonna attract all the ladies. Now, hello RB. Now, why organisms glow? Bioluminescence evolved for several purposes. The first one would be hunting. Predators lure their prey with light, like the anglerfish. The second one would be defense. Sudden flashing can startle predators, like the jellyfishes. Camouflage. Some fish glow downward to match faint surface light, hiding their silhouette, like the plankton. And communication. Signals for mating or territory, like the fireflies. Lamp. Now, bioluminescent molecules are extremely valuable in science. Researchers use them to track gene activity, study cancer cells, monitor infections, and visualize biological processes inside living organisms. The discovery of GFP revolutionized biology and earned a Nobel Prize. The deep ocean is probably the most bioluminescent environment on Earth. This is a mind-blowing fact for you. Below about 1,000 meters, sunlight disappears completely, yet many creatures still glow. In a sense, the deep sea is a hidden ecosystem of living lights. This is cute. Imagine. It's an alien world. It's an alien world. So you remember that time when we said that there's aliens in like in the at the bottom of the ocean? Well, yeah. Here's the thing. The deep ocean is full of animals that look almost alien. In the darkest below 1000 meters, bioluminescence becomes one of the most important survival tools. So evolution has produced some extremely strange glowing creatures. So here are some of the most unusual ones scientists have discovered. The first one would be the anglerfish. You guys know the anglerfish. The living fishing rod. Females have a glowing lure hanging from their head. The light attracts curious prey in the darkness. When prey approaches, the fish snaps its huge jaws shut. Even stranger, tiny males sometimes fuse permanently with the female's body, becoming parasitic mates that supply sperm. Imagine being stuck forever to your wife. It's like a constant fucking. Jesus. Jesus, I'm not affiliate. I can say whatever I want. Thing is, yeah. Thing is, still. Damn. Whatever. The next one will be the vampire squid. Defensive light show. Despite its name, it doesn't drink blood. Instead, it has glowing blue organs along its arms, the ability to release bioluminescent mucus. If attacked, it ejects glowing clouds that confuse predators, like underwater smoke bombs made of light. Most would kill for that, but that's a lot of effort too, lol. Imagine going to the store and being like, don't mind me just getting my sperm. Okay, now that's cool. Oh, the smoke bombs made of light. Yeah, that would be very, very cool. Imagine being able to do that motherfucking thing. But yeah, I know that thing with the don't mind me just getting my sperm. Oh my god. Okay, okay. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Underwater smoke bombs made of light. Like, imagine the blinding assassin, the blinding ninja. Natural flashbang, indeed. Like my fridge. Don't ask. Anyway, the bobbit worm, ambush predator. This terrifying worm hides in the seabed. Only its jaws remain exposed. It senses vibrations from passing fish. Then it launches out at lightning speed and drags prey underground. Some species glow faintly, possibly to attract prey. They can grow over 3 meters or 10 feet long. Imagine a 10 feet long worm that can fucking move at lightning speed. That's fucking terrifying. So basically, it's like a underwater snake. It's called a worm, but it's a snake actually. Yeah, yeah. It's fucking terrifying just thinking about it. Damn. Now, the next one would be the Dumbo octopus, the deepest octopus. And now, despite its cute ass name, it was named for the ear-like fins resembling Disney's Dumbo. It lives deeper than most octopuses. Soft, gelatinous body sometimes shows faint glowing patterns. They drift gracefully just above the seafloor, feeding on worms and crustaceans. They're nice little octopuses. They're just so nice. They're just nice. They're just nice little guys. Like, you give me a worm and I'll be happy. Those are so fucking adorable. I swear. Cute little dudes. Now, next one, the deep sea dragonfish, invisible predator. One of the most sophisticated bioluminescent hunters. It can produce blue light and red light. Most deep sea creatures cannot see red wavelengths. So the dragonfish essentially has a private flashlight that lets it see prey while remaining invisible. You've been hit by a smooth operator. Indeed. The next one would be the barrel fish. Transparent head. This fish has one of the strangest anatomies in the ocean. A transparent dome-shaped head, rotating tubular eyes inside the dome, and a faint glowing structure. Its eyes can swivel upwards to watch for prey silhouetted above. Okay, that sounds alien as fuck. Like, I swear, that sounds so alien. Let's be for real, guys. Doesn't that sound alien to you? Like, imagine this thing. This rotating tubular eyes inside a dome, which is its head. Exactly, reality indeed is stranger than fiction. Yes, this sounds like an actual fucking alien. I swear to God. As I said, guys, see? Aliens were always in the deep, deep ocean. They were never in the sky. They were here the whole time. Sounds stupid. Now, the next one would be the calm jellies. Rainbow light waves. Also known as ctenorophora. Also called calm jellies. They don't just glow, they create moving rainbow waves of light along rows of tiny beating cilia. Some species can produce sudden flashes to startle predators. They're among the oldest animal lineage on Earth. Rainbow Cthulhu, right there. Rainbow Cthulhu. It's Cthulhu when he goes to the rave. Rave Cthulhu, right there. Calm. Yeah, like body horror. Yeah, I know. Calm. Yeah. This is like, again, this is Rave Cthulhu right there. Now, why the deep ocean glows? In the abyss, sunlight never reaches. Bioluminescence becomes the main way organisms hunt, hide, communicate, and defend themselves. Scientists estimate most deep-sea animals produce light in some form. The result is a hidden ecosystem, where the darkness is constantly punctuated by flashes, pulses, and drifting glows. Like a rave! You're right. You were right, Knight. It is like a... I'm glad I make your day. That's why I'm here, to make your day for you. But yeah, you were right, Knight. You were right about that. The ocean is just a big fucking rave. Night waves, yay! Ocean raves! Anyway, here's a wild thought. Humans have explored less of the deep ocean than the surface of the moon. Many glowing species likely remain undiscovered. Some researchers think the strangest deep-sea creatures haven't been seen yet. So here's some food for thought. Yeah, rave music. Sorry, this is the only music I have right now tonight. But imagine it's rave music. Whatever. But yeah, that's some food for thought. Yeah, this was about the bioluminescence. A nice little thing for you to think about. And this was basically like the last subject we were supposed to be talking about last week, but we didn't have time. But there's nothing, that's okay. We talked about it and I hope you liked it. Now, we can move on to the actual first subject that was supposed to be today. Well, I have even something even better. We have street art. Do you guys like street art? I do. So, street art has evolved from simple graffiti into a global artistic movement with distinctive styles, philosophies, and cultural roots. Many movements emerge as forms of protest, identity, or reclaiming public space. So, here are some of the most influential street art movements. Everyone likes art, okay? It's impossible. The first one, it is graffiti writing, which for everyone's, I think, maybe surprise, it actually started between 1970s and 1980s. So yeah, modern street art began with graffiti culture in New York City during the 1970s. Artists wrote stylized versions of their names, called tags, on trains and walls. They are still happening even to this day. Like, for example, in my country, they're still doing it in our subways. Y'all believe in ghosts? Yeah. So some key figures include Tacky 183 and Don D. White. Some styles evolved into bubble letters, wild style lettering, and large colorful murals. Graffiti spread worldwide through hip-hop culture. Now, the next one would be stencil art. Stencil art allows artists to reproduce complex images quickly. A stencil is cut from paper or cardboard, then sprayed painted through. The most famous stencil artist is Banksy, whose works combine political satire with dark humor. Stencils became popular because they allow fast execution, important for illegal art, produce detailed images, and spread easily across cities. I think it's impossible. I'm sure you guys have seen those. They even appeared in some of the music videos at the beginning of the 2000s or like late 90s. The next one will be with paste and poster art. Artists glue printed artwork to walls using paste. This movement grew in the 1980s and in the 1990s. Famous examples include the propaganda-style works of Shepard Fairey, creator of the Obey campaign. Poster art often mixes political messaging, graphic design, and pop culture imagery. Oh my god, I remember when everyone was just wearing the Obey fucking caps. Jesus. Anyway, the next one is sticker art. Sticker bombing. Artists place printed or hand-drawn stickers across cities. Advantages: easy to distribute, cheap to produce, and quick to install. Sticker culture spread through skateboarding and punk scenes. Cities worldwide became covered with layered sticker collages. Same thing, like you can even see them. Usually you can see them on lampposts or electric poles, something like that. Like they are usually on stuff like this. The next one would be the conceptual street art. Some artists moved beyond graffiti aesthetics to create philosophical or conceptual interventions. For example, French artist GR installs huge photographic portraits on buildings to explore identity and community. This movement often merges street art with photography and social activism. The next one is guerrilla urban interventions. Some artists alter public spaces in unexpected ways. An example would be Invader. Installs mosaic tiles resembling characters from the video game Space Invaders around cities. These works turn cities into interactive art scavenger hunts. And then, well, the last one would be muralism and legal street art. In the 2000s, cities began inviting street artists to paint large murals. Massive urban artworks now appear in festivals and public art programs. Notable mural artists include O.S. Gimios. Their colorful, dreamlike murals transform city walls into giant canvases. Now, why does street art matter? Street art challenges the traditional idea that art belongs only in galleries. It can reclaim public spaces, criticize political power, amplify marginalized voices, and transform neglected neighborhoods. Because it exists in public, it also raises questions. Who owns a wall? Who controls visual culture in a city? Now, the most beautiful thing about street art is the fact that it became, from vandalism, it got to global art form. Street art has moved from underground rebellion to mainstream recognition. Works by artists like Banksy have sold for millions in galleries, even though they started as illegal graffiti. Yet, many artists still see the street as the most honest gallery. Now, you guys want to hear about some like street artworks, like famous street artworks that mysteriously appeared overnight? Or so people think. Tell you. I'll tell everyone, not just you, them. So, some of the most legendary street artworks became famous because they appeared suddenly, without warning, often overnight. By morning, people woke up to discover a powerful image on a wall, bridge, or building, sometimes sparkling global attention. So, here are several of the most famous examples. The Balloon Girl in London. Girl with Balloon, created by Banksy, as we still talked about him. Still, pencil appeared on a wall in London. The image shows a young girl reaching towards a red heart-shaped balloon drifting away. It became one of the most recognizable street artworks in the world. Years later, a version of the artwork famously shelf-shredded at auction, turning into a new piece titled "Love is in the Bin." Another one is the cosmonaut, Taganskaya Metro in Moscow. An anonymous artist painted a Soviet-style cosmonaut floating in space inside the Taganskaya Metro station area. It appeared overnight and instantly spread across social media. The piece referred to Soviet space history while adding a surreal urban twist. Now, another one from Banksy is Bansky's Rat series in various cities. Another recurring figure from Banksy is the rat. Rats appeared suddenly across cities like Paris and New York City. The rats often carry signs or tools, symbolizing rebellion and survival in hostile environments. They became a signature motif of underground resistance. The next one will be the flower thrower in Bethlehem. Love is in the air, flower thrower. This iconic stencil appeared on a wall in Bethlehem. It shows a masked protester throwing a bouquet of flowers instead of a weapon. The contrast between violence and peace turned the piece into a global anti-war symbol. The next one will be the superhero janitor in London. Another overnight Banksy piece showed the janitor sweeping dirt under a curtain, as if hiding societal problems. The artwork quickly became a viral metaphor for governments ignoring uncomfortable truths. Another one in London is There Is Always Hope. It's another variation of The Girl with Balloon included the phrase There is always hope. It appeared overnight and became one of the most photographed street artworks ever. So, why do these appear overnight? Street artists often work secretly because graffiti laws can lead to arrest, surprise increases impact, mystery builds mythology. The sudden appearance transforms a wall into a cultural event. People wake up, share photos, and the artwork spreads globally within hours. Thanks to the beauty of the internet. Now, street art has a strange power. Unlike museum art, street art is temporary, anonymous, and vulnerable to removal. But that fragility is part of its power. A wall can become a global symbol in a single night. So what do you guys think? Isn't street art great? Street art is badass. Doesn't matter what happens. Doesn't matter what anybody says. There is so much street art where I live. It's an expression of the culture and the people. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And the beauty of like just being able to depict anything and everything. Isn't art just beautiful? Mm, mm, mm. But now we talked about art. What other parts of art do we know besides, like we think about pictures, we think about movies. Movies. You guys like scary movies? Do you like scary movies? What are your favorite scary movies? Like, what do you usually like to watch, to see in a scary movie? Because, like, in my case, I personally do not like slashers. Not a big fan. Mm. I see, I see. I personally don't like slashers just because I don't like gore. But I'm fine with light gore. And the light gore that I'm fine with is usually blood. I'm okay with blood. So, talking about blood, do you guys like vampires? Because the next subject would be the beliefs of vampirism in Romania. I wanted to talk about this for a long ass time, and I finally decided to. Yes, I know you like vampires. Anyway, Romania has one of the richest traditions of vampire folklore, especially in rural regions, where beliefs about the undead persisted well into the 19th and early 20th centuries. These traditions are very different from the elegant fictional vampires seen today. I don't think Nosferatu was a scary movie. I think Nosferatu was a failure regarding a failure for like a love story. That's what I think Nosferatu was. Now, I think it's a very beautiful movie, and you should watch it if you haven't already. But, yeah. Anyway, the thing that I personally hate when I see people talking about this like vampires and stuff. And what I hate about what Hollywood did with vampires was that it created them to be these like beautiful, perfect, alluring creatures. Not always the case. Okay, that's a hot take. How can you say something so brave yet so unconventional? Anyway, I will be even more brave with this as I will destroy everything Hollywood just pumped you full of regarding vampires. The Romanian vampire, also known as the strigoi. The most common figure in Romanian folklore is the strigoi. People believed strigoi were the restless spirits of the dead who returned from the grave to harm the living. They were taught to drink blood or drain life energy, cause illness or crop failure, visit family members at night, and disturb livestock. Unlike modern vampires, they were often described as invisible spirits that could take physical form. Not the hot Edward Cullen type, sorry. So, how someone becomes a strigoi. Folklore suggested several ways a person could become one: dying violently or prematurely, being cursed or excommunicated, improper burial rituals, being born with unusual signs like a coal or an extra nipple, living an immortal life. In some traditions, even witches or sorcerers could become strigoi after death. Now, how do you know? Like, when do you know? When? When do you know? Well, you usually know when someone dies and you put them in the grave. So, if villagers suspected vampirism, they sometimes exhumed bodies to check for signs like fresh blood around the mouth, bloated bodies, hair or nails appearing longer, and lack of decomposition. Today we know these were normal post-mortem processes, but at the time they reinforced fear of the undead because, science wasn't so wow, especially in that country. Now, we all heard about the methods to stop a vampire. And the methods were that if a corpse was suspected to becoming a strigoi, villagers might perform protective rituals, such as driving a wooden stake through the heart, cutting off the head, burning the body, placing garlic in the grave, or scattering seeds so the vampire will be forced to count them, which that's the most dumb one, but oh well. These rituals were meant to prevent the dead from rising again. Imagine this. You're a vampire, yeah? You get out of the grave. The grave is like surrounded by seeds, and you're like, the first thing is like, I'm just gonna walk over them. No. I must count the seeds. The seeds must be counted. So you just sit down. And you start counting the seeds all night. And the sun rises, you don't realize, you get to be like, 357. And you're like, wait, why is it getting bright? And then you're burned alive by the sun. That was the last thing you did as an undead. You counted the seeds. That's depressing. Anyway, we know that thanks to Mr. Bram Stoker, a certain idea was created. Dracula, as you all know. And he was inspired by the one and only Vlad the Impaler. Now, The Romanian vampire folklore later became connected to Vlad the Impaler, a brutal historical prince of Wallachia. The Irish writer Bram Stoker used Vlad's name and reputation when creating the famous vampire Count Dracula in the novel Dracula. However, Vlad himself was not believed to be a vampire in Romanian folklore. The connection is mostly literary. Just a myth. Now, other related creatures in the Romanian folklore will be, like besides the strigoi, there's also the moroi, sometimes the ghost of an unbaptized child, and the pricolici, undead shapeshifters. These beings were part of a larger belief system about restless spirits and supernatural threats. Now, why did the vampires become so strong in the region? Several factors helped vampire beliefs grow in Eastern Europe. High mortality rates, limited medical knowledge, strong folk spirituality, fear of disease outbreaks, and rural isolation. When unexplained deaths occurred, communities needed an explanation. So the vampire became a powerful cultural answer. Now, I'll be right back, but we'll continue with this in a bit. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. I really had to go to the bathroom. But I'm back now. And we can continue. So yeah, hope I break off your idea of the Hollywood vampires. Now, do you guys want to hear about some real historical cases in Romania when villagers actually dug up graves because they believed someone was a vampire? Because I have some. So, belief in vampires wasn't only folklore in Romania. There are documented historical cases where villagers actually exhumed bodies because they believed the dead had become vampires. Some of these incidents were recorded by doctors, police, and even journalists. And here are some of the most well-known cases. So, the first one is the Marutinu case in 2004. One of the most famous modern cases happened in the village of Marutinu de Sus. A man named Petre Toma died in 2003. Soon after his death, family members reported nightmares and illness. Livestock reportedly began dying, and relatives believe his spirit has returned as a strigoi. In December 2003, several villagers secretly dug up his grave. So it wasn't not even like in the 19th or 20th centuries, it was literally in 2004. So, they found the body relatively well preserved, which they interpret as proof of vampirism. The villagers then removed the heart, burned it, mixed the ashes with water, drank the mixture as a protective ritual. Authorities later prosecuted some participants for grave desecration. This case gained international attention because it happened in the 21st century. So as I said, literally 22 years ago. So it's not just a case of the 19th centuries thing, but we also have the 19th century vampire panics. During the 1700s and 1800s, several regions in Eastern Europe experienced what historians call vampire panics. Villagers across areas, including Transylvania, sometimes exhumed suspected vampires. Bodies showing normal decomposition effects, such as bloating or blood seeping from the mouth, were often taken as evidence. In many cases, the body would be staked, decapitated, burned, reburied with protective objects. These events were sometimes recorded by traveling officials of the Habsburg Empire, which governed parts of the region. So, nice, right? Anyway, why did the people thought the corpses looked quote unquote alive? Modern science. Sorry. Modern science explains many of the signs villagers interpreted as vampirism. Gas buildup. Bodies swell during decomposition, giving the impression of recent feeding. Blood leakage. Fluids can seep from the mouth and nose. Nails and hair illusion. Skin retracts, making nails and hair appear longer. Slow decomposition in cold soil. Bodies may look unusually preserved. Without knowledge of decomposition, these details were frightening. Hey! What you doing? Hello, welcome. I'm glad you finally made it to one of my streams where it's live still. We're talking about vampires. So yeah, if you bury a body in the winter, it actually preserves really well. Anyway, the influence on the Dracula myth. These real vampire scares helped shape the Western vampire stories. The famous fictional vampire Count Dracula appeared in the novel Dracula by Bram Stoker. Stoker drew inspiration from Eastern European folklore about Strigoi, although his vampire differs greatly from traditional Romanian beliefs, unfortunately. I'm glad you made it, and I hope work wasn't too stressful. Now, a surprising fact will be that the anthropologists note that vampire beliefs in rural Eastern Europe persisted into the modern era because isolated communities maintained strong folk traditions. Oral storytelling kept supernatural explanations alive, and unexplained illness or bad luck still sought spiritual causes. The Marotino incident shows that even today, ancient beliefs can survive alongside modern society. Now, maybe you guys want me to talk more about the vampire panic that I was saying earlier. So, the closest thing to a world record vampire hunt in history wasn't a single event, but a wave of investigations and grave exhumations across Eastern Europe in the early 1700s. Historians often call it the 19th century vampire panic. During the early 1700s, large parts of southeastern Europe, then under the rule of the Habsburg Empire, reported supposed vampire attacks. Villages in areas such as Serbia and Transylvania claimed that recently deceased people were returning from their graves to kill or drain the life from neighbors. The fear spread so widely that imperial officials and doctors were sent to investigate. No. As every episode, I have just like a palette of many subjects. So it just so happens that we are at this particular one when you jumped in. We also talk about bioluminescence and street art today. So we got two vampires. Anyway, one famous case happened in the village of Kisiljevo. A man named Peter Blagovic died in 1725. Soon afterwards, villagers reported that 9 people died within days. Several claimed the dead man had visited them at night, and authorities allowed the grave to be opened. According to reports, the body appeared well preserved and blood was found around the mouth. Villagers then drove a stake through the corpse and burned it. The event was documented in Austrian administrative records and newspapers across Europe. You do that then. Thank you. Okay. Another one would be the Arnold Paule case in 1726. Another major investigation involved Arnold Paule. Paule had reportedly claimed that he had once been attacked by a vampire before his death, after he died in a farming accident. Locals blamed later deaths on him returning as a vampire. In 1726, officials exhumed his body and reported unusual preservation. Later, several other corpses were also dug up during the same investigation. This case became famous across Europe and helped ignite the vampire craze. Um, Europe also had its first scientific quote-unquote vampire investigation, the panic became so widespread that imperial authorities commissioned a formal report. The investigation was documented by physician Johannes Flackinger. His report, titled Visum et Repertum, described the exhumation and was circulated widely. Ironically, instead of debunking vampires, the report spread fear across Europe. And there they had the vampire craze in Europe. Newspapers and scholars in cities like Vienna and Paris debated the phenomenon. Philosophers even wrote essays about it. Eventually, Empress Maria Theresa ordered investigations that concluded vampire claims were based on misunderstood decomposition processes. She later banned vampire hunting practices. But why did it become so large scale? This vampire hunt spread widely because of the plague outbreaks and unexplained deaths, limited medical knowledge about decomposition, strong folklore traditions, sensational newspaper coverage. In many villages, dozens of graves were opened during a single panic. But this whole thing had a historical impact. These events helped inspire the modern vampire myth that later appeared in literature, including the novel Dracula by Bram Stoker. Real grave exhumations and vampire fears in Eastern Europe shaped the vampire legends we know today. But yeah, this was about the vampires. I hope you guys had fun with this. Any more questions and what do you call it? Curiosities about the subject? Ooh, that's a good one. That's actually a very good question. What explains some of the powers vampires have in fiction? Thank you. Well, many vampire powers in fiction actually come from a mix of folklore, misunderstood medical conditions, and later literary invention. When you trace them back, most abilities have surprisingly ordinary origins. So let's break down some famous vampire traits and one might explain them. Super strength and speed. In early Eastern European folklore, vampires weren't necessarily elegant predators. They were bloated corpses, believed to possess unnatural strength. Stories exaggerated this into superhuman abilities. Later, Gothic writers like Bram Stoker expanded this idea in the novel Dracula, giving vampires animal-like power. In literature, strength symbolized predatory dominance. So, again, just an idea. Another one would be hypnosis and mind control. The hypnotic gaze of vampires appeared mainly in the 19th century fiction. At the time, Europe was fascinated by mesmerism, a supposed form of mind influence developed by Franz Mesmer. Writers adapted this idea into the vampire's ability to control victims. It reflects Victorian fears about loss of will and psychological manipulation. Another one would be the turning into bats or mist. Shapeshifting comes from older folklore where evil spirits could transform into animals. In Slavic traditions, creatures like the strigoi were believed to leave the body as a spirit, appear as animals, and move through the night unseen. Gothic fiction transformed this into dramatic shapeshifting, especially bats and wolves. Another one would be the fear of sunlight. Interestingly, early vampire folklore did not always include sunlight weakness. This became popular much later, especially in the 20th century cinema like Nosferatu, because we were talking about it earlier. Before that, many fictional vampires could walk in daylight. Filmmakers likely used sunlight destruction because it created visual drama and symbolic purity, defeating evil. You know, because sunlight is the pure light and all that. Anyway, another sensitivity that we all know would be the sensitivity to garlic. So garlic appears in many Eastern European traditions as protection against evil. People believed it could repel spirits, illness, or curses. This belief comes from garlic's strong smell, antibacterial properties, and historical use as medicine. So it became a supernatural, natural repellent. Even though it is not the case, but oh well. Another thing that they do would be the way they feed. Drinking blood, for example. Blood has always symbolized the life force. So in ancient cultures, drinking blood was associated with power, and blood rituals appeared in religious ceremonies. Stories about vampires feeding on blood reflects fears about disease, death, and the transfer of life energy. In some historical vampire panics, unexplained illness after a death made villagers believe the dead were feeding. So, there you go. We also have some possible medical inspirations. Some rare conditions may have contributed to vampire legends. For example, porphyria, the disorder affecting heme production in blood. Symptoms can include sensitivity to sunlight, pale skin, and reddish teeth in severe cases. I have that. Anyway, rabies. Rabies cause aggression, biting behavior, sensitivity to light, and insomnia. Rabies outbreaks in the past sometimes coincided with vampire panics. So yeah, there you go. Can be either porphyria, which I have, or rabies. Now, why did the vampire powers keep changing? Because we all know that depending on what movie you're watching, vampires may have different powers. Vampires evolved with cultural fears. In the 1800s, fear of disease, fear of sexuality, fear of foreign aristocrats. In the modern stories, immortality, loneliness, and power and temptation. Each era reshapes the vampire myth. The deeper truth is, vampires are less about monsters and more about human anxieties, death, disease, desire, and immortality. That's why they're surviving stories for centuries. Here's your answer. Now, do you guys want me to talk more about vampires or should we move to the next subject? I still have a little bit of time. I think we can do one more subject before I have to go. Or we can talk more about vampires and we're gonna leave the subjects for one more episode. More vampires! Okay. What do you want to know more? From the expert. Oh my. Okay, what else do you want to know more about vampires? Oh, okay. What about things like flight or the flight? Or the rule where they can enter in a building before asking? I mean, then again, those are another ones of those things created by Hollywood superstitions. Okay, let's do the flight thing and then and with the building before asking. Then I will do the superstitions. Okay. So, two famous vampire traits in fiction, as you said, are in the flight, and the rule that they can enter a home unless they get invited. Also have roots in older folklore and symbolism. They weren't random inventions. They grew out of older beliefs about spirits, demons, and social boundaries. The flight. Vampires flying or gliding through the night comes mainly from shape-shifting traditions. In Eastern European folklore, creatures like the strigoi were believed to leave their bodies at night and move through the air as spirits, as I said earlier. Hello, RB. Hello again. Okay. So, vampires could appear as animals, such as bats, owls, moths, or even wolves. That's a bit more rare, though. This didn't originally mean a cape-wearing vampire flying like Superman. It meant spiritual travel, or transformation into a flying creature. Later Gothic literature exaggerated this into full aerial movement. In Dracula, for example, the vampire created by Bram Stoker can turn into bats or mist, effectively giving him the ability to move through the air. Bats themselves became associated with vampires because they are nocturnal, some species actually drink blood, vampire bats, and they already had eerie reputations in European folklore. Also, there's always a lot of bats in Eastern Europe, I can confirm. Now, the invitation rule. The rule that a vampire cannot enter a home unless invited comes from much older beliefs about spiritual boundaries. Across many European traditions, a home was considered a protected sacred space. Evil spirits or demons could not cross the threshold without permission. This idea appears in Christian and pre-Christian folklore. The house symbolized family protection, spiritual sanctuary, and human authority over private space. So the rule essentially means the vampire needs the victim's consent to violate their personal domain. In storytelling, this creates a powerful metaphor. Evil requires a form of permission to enter your life. Now, the symbolic meaning of those two both abilities reflect deeper ideas. For example, with the flight, supernatural freedom, escape from human limitations, and connection to the night world. And the invitation rule, respect for spiritual or moral boundaries and the danger of letting harmful influences inside. But why do these rules persist? Writers keep these traits because they create tension. Flight makes vampires unpredictable and powerful, and the invitation rule creates psychological drama. The victim must open the door. Together, they reinforce the central vampire theme. The real danger often comes not from the monster forcing its way in, but from the moment someone lets it in. Now, you want to know superstitions about vampires? Or superstitions in general? Because you weren't sure. You weren't like, you didn't tell me exactly, like superstitions in general or superstitions about vampires. You didn't specify alpha. Yeah, wow, there's a lot of things. I mean, if you think about it, like all of them have like, if you really sit down and think about it, all of them have like a very good uh, explanation and makes sense. So yeah, Alpha, what did you mean? Superstitions in general or about vampires? Because I gotta know. You didn't specify. Because again, like we talked. Would I want to be a vampire? Oh, being a vampire is very complicated. I mean, look at all of those vampires that um, are in the, in media and stuff like that. Well, it has its ups and downs. Yeah, you're getting strength, you're getting like, the ability to control people's minds and all of that. But at the same time, you also have like, the bad parts of it. You do not have agency. You are becoming literally a slave to your desires. And you do not have the freedom that you want to. So no. Isn't being a vampire just being a human with like a longer lifespan? Really no. Okay, Alpha, you're not responding to me, so I'm just gonna go with superstitions about vampires because you're not responding. Anyway, the vampire folklore is loaded with superstitions, practices, and beliefs designed to prevent the dead from returning or to protect the living from supernatural harm. Many of these come from Eastern Europe, especially Romania, Serbia, and Hungary, where fear of the undead was historically widespread. Some of those are burial practices. Villagers believed that certain people could rise as vampires, such as those who died violently, suddenly, or were considered immortal, quote unquote. To prevent this, they followed strict rules when burying the dead. Stake through the heart. This is the classic image of killing a vampire. Decapitation. Removing the head ensured the spirit could not return. Burning the body. Fire was believed to purify the soul. Placing iron or coins in the coffin. Iron and coins could block or trap the vampire. And covering the mouth with garlic or bricks prevented feeding or escape. I actually didn't know about the part with the bricks. Anyway, protective talismans. People used objects with spiritual or symbolic power to keep vampires away. The most common, garlic, hung in homes or worn on the body. The most also like very known, holy water. Holy water. Sprinkled around windows, doors, and graves. People are still doing that, by the way. Crucifixes, used in Christian communities to repel the undead. Or a St. Andrew's cross or iron nails that are placed on coffins. Now, people also had some nighttime precautions. Vampires were believed to appear at night, so villagers had routines to protect themselves. Avoiding cemeteries after dark, sleeping with a knife under the pillow or other sharp objects, and placing hemp seeds or poppy seeds outside doors. Superstitious beliefs said a vampire must count the seeds before entering. Again, very stupid, but oh well. You know? But yeah, there you go. Anyway, this was fun. This was fun. But unfortunately, we do not have time for more today. Um, I will. I was having like two more subjects I wanted to talk about today, and that would have been ended the series as well. But oh well, I guess I have to do another episode next week, the final one, really. So, yeah. But it was fun. It was fun. Yeah, yeah. I don't have time anymore. I need to go take a shower soon. And I also need to record for Reddit real soon. This was really fun. This was really, really fun. Now, let's see if we have anyone that's live right now. Because if we do, we can send you there. Oh, look, we have Garrett. Garrett. Garrett is live. That's good. Okay. Thank you so much. I hope you liked it. But yeah, I can like transfer you to Garrett. Apparently he's live with a very nice lady. But yeah. Well, go and have the cinnamon raid. We need a raid test, a text, a message, you know. Cinerade. Let's keep it Cinerade. So yeah, I'll send you there. Cinerade. There you go. But yeah, this was fun. And I see you next time. Bye bye.